Hi there, and greetings from Varanasi, India, where I'm on the rooftop of my hotel here on about the 6th or 7th floor, just watching the sun setting here and kites flying around, monkeys jumping around on the rooftops here. Pretty cool scene. I've been traveling for 4 months now. I started off in Indonesia and then went to Thailand, went to Myanmar for just a couple of days, Laos, Nepal, where I was just trekking in the Himalaya mountains, and just arrived in India about 2 weeks ago, and I will be continuing with my travels here for the next couple of months, and then most likely journeying on somewhere else. I'm not quite sure where yet. So if you're curious to follow my travels, then feel free to subscribe to my channel, and I post videos almost daily of the various sights and scenes that I see in the course of my adventures. And so people oftentimes ask me, probably the most common question in comments below my videos, etc., is how do you do it? How do you make it happen? How do you afford it? How do you come up with the money, and then how do you make it last while you're traveling? So the first thing is that I have very few financial obligations back home, like almost none. I don't have a mortgage. I don't have an apartment that I'm paying rent on. I don't have any children, but I'm going to give you a couple of other little tips. So one is that I have a super cheap storage space that is $10 a month, but if you don't come across a $10 a month storage space, finding somewhere to store your belongings, such as family or friends, where you can put it in their garage or whatever, so that you're not paying a hefty bill every month. My cell phone service, I was able to turn off, even though I'm stuck in a contract with T-Mobile. Then I gave them a call, and it turns out you can pause your service, and then it is $10 a month instead of the $50 to $60 a month I would otherwise be paying. And then I also paused my student loans. And this may or may not be a wise thing to do, because your interest continues to rack up even though you're not paying them. But for this trip in particular, then I wanted to give myself some breathing room, because I'm trying to make money online, which I will discuss further in a few minutes. So I have almost no other expenses while I'm traveling other than my travel expenses. The second component is, if money is an issue and you want to stretch your money as much as you can, is to go somewhere cheap. That's really what it comes down to, is that if you haven't traveled to Asia or to other cheaper places, and you hear about somebody spending months over there, then your understandable assumption is, you must have gobs of money. You must have to start out with $20,000 in order to spend 6 months in Asia, and that is not the case. Things are ridiculously cheap here compared to the West, and so you can stretch your money a lot further. My hotel here, family guest house in Varanasi, India, I'm paying $4 for a nice little room, simple but has a good vibe to it, with attached bathroom and free wireless. $4. Food here is very cheap, $1 or $2 or $3 for a very good meal. So I've been spending about $10 a day while I've been here in India. So travel in Asia and some other parts of the world is especially cheap. So if you want to extend your trip, pick somewhere cheap. There are, of course, various tricks for keeping things cheaper. I actually managed to travel in Greece. I went to Greece for 3 months in 2009, and I managed to do it pretty cheaply. I think I averaged less than $30 a day, like $27, $28 per day, despite the fact that Greece is part of the EU and uses the euro, and so it is basically European prices. I brought a mountain bike. Then I went to something like 12 or 13 different Greek islands, and I brought the mountain bike with me. It's free to bring the bicycle on the ferries. So you pay the same passenger rate that everyone else is paying who doesn't have a vehicle. And so you just wheel onto the ferry, you get to the next island, you bicycle off, and you don't have to pay for a taxi, you don't have to pay for a bus, you don't have to rent a car. Most of the Greek islands are quite small, and so it's easy to get around. Some of them I could bike across in an hour or two. So that takes out your transportation costs, or at least a good chunk of them. I also brought a tent. First I stayed in hostels, in a hostel in Athens, and I stayed in some hostels throughout my trip. But I also camped in campgrounds, and then in addition to camping in campgrounds, then I also camped rough, as they say. You can get away with camping if it's a secluded place, not one of the popular beaches, but a less touristy, less popular island, or a especially secluded beach. I also did work exchange at a retreat center, and then I got free room and board for my services. So finding opportunities along those lines to at least mix into your trip, even if you want to travel freely for much of the trip. Helpx.net is a site that helps connect people with those types of opportunities. In addition, then there is Couchsurfing, couchsurfing.com. Couchsurfing is a website that connects you with people who are offering their house for free as an opportunity for them just to meet travelers. You set up an account there. It's monitored very well. You can get like ratings and reviews from other people, and so you can get a feel for the person rather than them just being a face or a name. Then they're making it a safe service. Finding a way to make some money online or in some other capacity while you're traveling to support your travels, so that you're not just dwindling away your money, but you're actually making some money along the way. So I make a little bit of money online. It's been increasing through these videos. So thanks for watching this video, because you may have contributed several pennies to my travel fund. I also sell books. Check out my book, Gabe's Guide to Budget Travel, link down below the video here. So find some creative endeavor in which you can make some money while you're traveling, whether it's online or some sort of a service you might offer. I met a girl in Thailand just recently who was supporting herself traveling by teaching English online via Skype. And then she just needed to do like an hour, 2 or 3 a day of English instruction, and then they deposit it in your PayPal account, and then that can go directly in your bank account. So there are many different ways to figure out how to make some money while you're traveling. So start thinking creatively, and what are your skills? What can you offer? What could you do online? Check out the website Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com, and that is a website in which people offer various services for $5. So what is something that you could offer for $5? Make someone a drawing, make someone a quick little video, write someone a song. There's like no limit to what it could be, basically. 2 more tips to bring costs down, and I will give examples from my trip to Greece that I mentioned. One is to travel in off-season. Halfway through June to halfway through September is the high season, with August being the peak high season. And then outside of that, prices come down. In Greece, then wintertime, then the island's pretty much shut down. So even though that is off-season, you could probably find a room still, I imagine. I'm really not sure about that one, actually. When I went to Greece, I arrived in the middle of August, but I stayed for 3 months. And so by the end of September, prices had come down considerably. Suggestion number 2, which is travel with a friend or a girlfriend. I met a woman in Greece, a Greek woman, and we ended up traveling together. And so there you split accommodation costs. So we, for example, stayed in Santorini, Greece, one of the most popular, most touristy islands in Greece, one of the most beautiful as well. and we had a room for, I think it was 30 euros. I forget if it was $30 or 30 euros. But, so that would be 45 bucks, split between two, that's 20 something dollars each. So that's pretty sweet to be staying in one of the most popular places in Greece, where if it was high season, then no doubt that same room would have been double or triple that price for a really nice room in the main village there. And so also to consider traveling with somebody, find a travel friend or girlfriend, and one website I'll mention for meeting people is travbuddy.com, travbuddy.com, just to meet fellow travelers along your trip. And perhaps one of them will be someone that you get along well enough with to travel with and split the costs. So the last thing that I'll mention here is the subject of airfare, which is of course a very important subject when you're talking about traveling around the world. And there are a few different ways to approach airfare. I'd say that there are sort of three main tactics. One is to purchase a round-the-world flight, and there are a wide assortment of different combinations as far as which places you end up going, but basically how it works is oftentimes there is a package of sorts offered by a travel company or a website or whatever, and it will have a set number of destinations, 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 different stops along the way, and it's very reasonably priced considering how many different flights there are included in it. And then you have all of your flights locked in, you know exactly where you're going to be going, and I think sometimes you have to set the dates on that. Some of them are open. There's a wide assortment, as I said, of different ways that works. Second option is to go online, for example, and buy all your tickets beforehand and set it up yourself, perhaps purchasing them individually or going on Expedia, for example, which I recommend. I oftentimes find to have the cheapest prices available, and picking a multi-destination itinerary and then booking it that way. And then the third option, which is my favorite, is buy a one-way flight somewhere and then leave things open from there, and then, you know, based on where you decide you want to go next, how long you want to stay there, what your budget is looking like, then make another booking at some later date for your next destination. And thanks to the internet, then this is a great way to go. You aren't necessarily going to spend more money, and you may very likely spend less, because airlines in those local countries can oftentimes be cheaper than whatever you're going to find when you're searching around online back home. In Turkey, in the Philippines, in Thailand, then I managed to find flights sometimes for as cheap as $30 flying across the country, or flying from, for example, the Philippines to Malaysia. AirAsia is an awesome one. So most countries have their own domestic airlines that is most likely going to be a lot cheaper than whatever you're finding back home. And also, you could just be open to where you happen to find an awesome deal on a flight and base your next destination in part on finding this awesome, super cheap flight. I ended up in Nepal before India here because I found a great flight from Bangkok, Thailand to Kathmandu, Nepal. I got a one-way flight for $200, everything included, whereas the cheapest I could find to Delhi at that time was around $400 to $500. Obviously, search and keep searching online is important for finding the cheapest flights, but you might consider just booking that first flight and then finding your other flights in the course of your travels. And maybe you'll find other ways. You may want to go overland, for example, from Vietnam to Thailand, or even through China to Mongolia, or who knows, which local buses are very cheap. So there you go. I hope that has provided some useful tips and information on planning a budget travel trip around the world. Feel free to check out my book, Gabe's Guide to Budget Travel. There's lots more information in there. It's available on Amazon.com as both a paperback and an ebook. Link down below the video here. And again, feel free to subscribe to my channel to follow my upcoming adventures throughout India, and we'll see where else. It all depends.